So far, 2024 has been quite the trying year for me. It's been an awesome year. Lots of transformative, wonderful, exciting new things are happening, and my life is growing in a positive way that it hasn't in a very, very, very long time. But to that note, through all those hurdles, shall we say, trials and tribulations, I get pretty stressed out and pretty wound up. And in the last couple of days, I realized just how overdriven I was going, and I needed to dial back a little bit. So I'm doing that. I'm going to fall back and figure out the head gasket thing, spend some time doing some research, get that worked out. In the process of all that stress and flipping out, I managed to crack the windshield on my car, break the door on my car, smash myself up pretty good, and a bunch of other stupid things. And laying in bed last night, I'm sitting there thinking about all that and realizing what an idiot I've been acting like, just trying to get things done too fast, too hard. And I want to share that experience with you because it's really easy to get locked in on a goal and to forget that life is a journey and that every day is a gift, and that if you don't take the time to enjoy it, you're missing it entirely. And so I had to fall back and think about, why am I farming? Well, I'm farming because I love life and I love working with plants and soils and animals. And primarily because that's the thing that I enjoy the most, and it is the least stressful thing to me, typically. But caught up in all those details of getting machinery going and logistics and trying to keep server hardware and software and underwear and everything else running, I just overloaded myself, overwhelmed myself, and I was finding myself stressed out in my own place over things that I set myself up to be stressed out over. And, well, that's not very smart. And so I kind of had to pull back and think to myself and think it over. And I realized that, I try to do everything so planned and methodical and well engineered. And trying to rush things is always what makes things end up being messed up in the long run. So I've pulled back a bit. I'm doing some plant work around here. I'm going to do some filming around here. I've got lots of lab stuff to talk about, plant stuff to talk about, soil stuff to talk about, farm stuff to talk about, AutoCAD stuff to talk about, engineering stuff to talk about, and future plans to talk about. So there's no shortage of stuff to think about and talk about. But I just wanted to relay and relate that experience to other people, so that maybe if you're running a little too hard and overdriving it a little too much, maybe you'll have a chance to look in the mirror too and say, hey, you know what? Maybe you better slow down. And lots of good people in my life around me have said that to me over the past few months in various ways. And I heard them and I understood what they were saying, and I knew they were probably right in my heart, but as you know, it's got to get done. It's got to happen. And a big part of that is making up for all the lost time of not farming. It was a big move to Canada, and I thought I was going to have a life partner for that, and that we'd be doing a bigger, cooler farming operation across two coasts, and that I'd be able to bring something really cool to the channel here. But that didn't work out, and that's okay. And it's probably for the better. Uh, in fact, it most certainly is, because look at where we are now. I've got some awesome farm machinery. I've got a great piece of land and a really wonderful gentleman who's allowed me to use his land and wants to foster his land in a positive way and is open to that. Man, that's a special opportunity just by itself. So I'm just sitting back and being thankful for all the blessings that I have. There are so many. I got the farm, the land, the machinery, the help to get the machinery and the hardware, software, all that stuff running and upgraded to a whole new level and a whole new scale. I've got a great place to live, a really cool landlord. I've got a really cool job now. Uh, Like life has improved so much, and so I have to just be thankful for that and not stress myself out. And I hope that you will take the time in your day to realize all the things that you have every day. When life was much rougher for me, the way I coped with a lot of that was every day realizing that, hey, I'm lucky just to have a roof over my head, food to eat, a place to sleep, safety, warmth, you know, basic comforts. There are so many people on this planet who don't even have basic comforts. So, no matter where you are in life, there's lots to be grateful for. And I think that's a great perspective to approach life with because it makes you appreciate every little thing. All right. I usually don't relate a lot of personal stuff on my channel here, but I felt this is an important one. So it's time for a checkup on the figs here. It's been 2 days, I think. Not very long at all. And you'll see some new green leaf growth starting to pop out of some of these stems, various spots. You'll see the color starting to come on. And probably do see a little bit of burn back here on the ends where they've been exposed to sun. I kind of went a little hard on them yesterday and put them out in some more direct sunlight like this. Not for long, couple hours, just to give them a blast of like, hey, this is the environment you're going into. You need to prepare. Along those lines, I want to relate a story as best I can that my friend Marty told me. He came across a guy who was growing trees somewhere. I forget what kind of tree it was. It was this whole cool process about how he germinated the tree seed and how he put it in really high nutrition soil and gave it the best nutrients to germinate the seed, and then put it into a stressful period after like 2 months or something as a way to basically give the tree a tough environment to establish itself in, and that made it a stronger tree. So it got that early critical point of influence to enhance its growth and energy and health and vitality, and then it got an extreme stress period to just let it know that, hey, you're going to have to be robust and be able to stand up to that environment. And that's something we have in humans too. I think it's called hormesis or hormesis. Basically, like every stressor that we take on, yes, that does some damage to us, but that lets our body learn how to heal and repair from that type of damage better and more efficiently. And plants do the same thing. All living creatures seem to do the same thing. They, they take stress from the environment, they respond to that stress, and then they have a better database, so to speak, of what stressors are in the environment and how to respond to them appropriately to recover from them or to mitigate the damaging effects of those stressors. So I've got some ginger and some holy basil here in this crate. They're suffering just not enough volume of soil space or water. Temperatures are up. Direct sunlight on that crate raises the temperature of that crate dramatically. So you want to get these into some better conditions. So I've got another old planter grow bag, 20 gallon I believe this was, with a nice growing mix in it that was used for some cannabis. And I just want to recycle that mix. But I just have a great opportunity here to talk about watering in containers and grow bags with mixed soils specifically. This is less of a problem when you're in the ground. You do still have to be attentive to watering and how deep your watering is actually going. But in containers, it can be really tricky with these mixed soils that are based on like cocoa coir or sphagnum peat moss. Those blends can hold a tremendous amount of water capacity in sort of a capillary lockup action in them, for lack of a better way to say it. So this was one that I just watered heavily the other day, and you can see already how uneven the water is in this bin, where the bottom got really wet and soaked out pretty good, and then further up in the soil profile, not so much. We have some pretty dry soil. Now, as you dig into that, there is moisture in there, but it's not as moist as you would want it to be when you're done with the watering, and you certainly wouldn't want to be seeing like really dry edges like that showing up. The reason I use things like watering cans and watering wands is because of their ability to distribute water more evenly into the soil profile. And I'm going to remix this soil, so I don't want to make a mess for myself. But just very briefly, I will demonstrate into the soil because it is a little bit dry. I can afford to do that and not make a total mess. I'll just demonstrate with the watering can how if you sprinkle onto the middle of the soil profile slowly and gently, you can see how it soaks through. But if you go too fast, even with a watering can, you can actually overflood. And do you see what happens when you think you're watering correctly? What's happening there? You walk away thinking because of the walls of the pot, you walk away thinking you watered that really well and there's a nice puddle of water there. But what's really happening? It's running down the outside of the pot, flowing off and going to the bottom of the pot, and you've missed the whole center profile of the soil. So that's a really easy mistake to make. I make that mistake still to this day sometimes, and I have to double check myself when I water stuff. Did I do that correctly? Did I get good saturation? When I stick my finger down into the soil, this is hard to do because it's upside down, but you know, what's it like 3 inches down? Do I have soil moisture 3 inches down at the tip of my finger that feels the same as the soil moisture I think I have on top? You know, am I getting puddles underneath the grow bag? If I lift the grow bag up and tilt it up, is there a wet spot under there? Well, there's water sitting there. Now you're drowning roots. So these are all details that you should just be aware of and pay attention to if you're going to grow in containers, especially grow bags in like grow tents. And it's a different outside. Like if you're out on the native soil, you know, you don't have to worry about that puddling so much. The native soil is going to soak up the excess water. So again, environment dictates gene expression. Control that environment, you'll have much better expression. So now what I've done is gone around and I've smashed down the outer edges of the bottom of that planter pot root ball. And so you're looking at that same thing. I've just smashed the edges off of it to expose more of the root ball so we can get a better look at the root structure in there. So you'll notice right away that there's a couple different layers here. And then also that area that dries out so fast, if you go further into that root core, as it turns out, is where all those root fibers are. And so what's happening there is those root fibers are extracting nutrients from the soil and microbiology and from the system, we'll say, because it's a system. And they're pulling that up to the plant. And that's why that soil dries out so much faster, because there's so much root mass in there. That's multiple large pipelines exchanging energy, nutrients, moisture, exudates, and so on. So here's one of those root balls exposed down a little bit more. I've shaken a good portion of the soil off it. You can see the stem there. And you can see how much root mat is there even after I've shredded and ripped apart. And there was 2 of them here that I separated. You probably could take this, throw it in the ground, and let it rip. Or before the solstice, I imagine it would re-veg pretty quick. But I don't need to. So now we're going to take a look at 2 different crates with ginger and holy basil in them. I don't know if we'll see anything interesting, but I forgot to bring them into it. So in the interest of brevity and efficiency, I just dumped it out upside down, basically gently, like a sandcastle. We can kind of flip it back over and out. I'm not too worried about any of it really. Looks like there is some good ginger rhizomes in here, so I'm going to replant those over into here. I might harvest some of that actually, because it's some pretty nice ginger right there. But also it's summer season, so let's take advantage of the summer season, right? Sorry for the horrible camera work. And grow some ginger up while we have sunlight to do it. And I'll probably just also transplant these holy basil in somewhere, or maybe into some other planter. But yeah, I guess I should note as I chuck this quote-unquote weed out, this has been with me since I was at the farm. This stuff just shows up in every planter I put in. Don't know how it gets there, but it must be jumping through my soil crosses or something. It's called sorrel, I believe. Lemon sorrel. Wild lemon sorrel, something like that. Actually has a really nice lemony flavor to it. So I'm chucking it out. I just don't need that much. Okay, I've planted some. Here's another good example of easy way to propagate ginger. These are the little guys. I always talk about how easy it is to just pop one of these off. And now you got a whole rooted plant for a whole new ginger plant. You can just plug into some soil, real gentle, and give some love, and away you go. So that's a bunch of ginger plants right there. I'll probably just drop this cluster. I've replanted most of the ginger back into here, along with one of the holy basil plants. And I'm going to keep a couple of nice ginger rhizomes out for eating or cooking or something. And then I've got another bin over here that I still got to work. You know, I've been hoping to get my hives back online. But it's nice to have a visit from a honeybee. It's probably in for the water. Just coming back and following up on my watering. Doing a couple of cycles to give it a good soaking. I'll let that soak in. I'll do this other transplant. I'll let that soak in. I'll do this other transplant. And then I'll hit it again. Just want to make sure it gets fully saturated. And I planted those ginger very deep. I'm recycling quite a bit of soil into here. And I may plant something else on top. But there's a lot of ginger in there, so I'll probably just let them come up through. So this one is basically just a brick of ginger on one half. And a holy basil plant on the other. So I'm going to break this up, and I'm going to find another 20-gallon grow bag and spread it out and grow it up. So here we are a little while later. Bugs are going after me. But I divided that down into 2 basic root blocks. I'll probably parse those out into a couple of planters, and that'll be that. So 1 potato fell out of the bag when I was transporting potatoes in the closet to the car to plant them. And I didn't discover it for a couple days. So I just stuck it in a planter here, and it's sprouting up. I'll probably transplant it out into one of the bigger planters with other stuff. Let it grow, and we'll just see what it does. So if you're not familiar with propagating ginger and turmeric and crops like that, and you haven't seen my other videos on it, I have videos specifically on how to propagate ginger and turmeric. But in case you haven't seen them, I'll just go over it again real quick. You basically just take these rhizomes, once we have them going like this, and divide them, and you split them up just like that, and you just keep dividing like that, and you keep growing out new roots and fingers. You just keep dividing off of them just like that, and each of those can be a couple of plants, and you can just go on and on and on and on and on, propagating as much as you want. So easy. Let's just take a look back over here as I'm breaking this root ball up. This just fell out of this clump. So that's all new growth that we can propagate from. All new ginger rhizomes, all crazy all over. And we can still get to harvest this out as a big clump of ginger to eat or cook with. So that's just how productive nature really is when you learn how to work within those systems and use them to your advantage. That's fucking awesome. Alright, so there we go. This is packed, although you can't tell because I dumped a bunch more soil on top just to help fill it up. I planted the potato over here with the ginger. I figured they work well together. And then I saved off a bunch of stuff, rhizomes that I split up for a friend, because he expressed an interest in growing some. So I guess that's that for now. I'm going to do some watering. It's hot here. We got our first hot spell. Summer's actually here, I think.